The Democratic Party has shown itself to be completely unfit to hold positions of power today. As I've said, there's two kinds of people. There are seekers of truth, and there are servants of power. And as I've also said, the utopia will not be built on a web of lies. Just as you can't build a bridge with faulty math, and you can't have a relationship with one other person unless that relationship is fundamentally based on truth. Otherwise, it simply becomes a power struggle. And so, of course, trying to build a society based on nothing but lies is going to be an absolute disaster. Today we see in the news, YouTube aims to protect elections by censoring what it deems to be, quote, hacked materials. Now, this hacked materials, it isn't particularly specific. Really, though, what it boils down to is anything that hurts the DNC narrative. They talk about how, back in 2016, the WikiLeaks really hurt Hillary Clinton. This is what started the, quote, Russian meddling hysteria, and a whole investigation that went on for years and turned out to be complete fake news. And it's become really inconvenient for the mainstream, for the DNC, for the ascendant globalist powers to keep having their narrative debunked real time. You've seen Yahoo News. They've done away with their comments section. Everywhere you look, they are looking to constrict the flow of information because they don't want a repeat of 2016. And so what you see here is this is people on the left, they have all become servants of power. So all they are doing, it's not about what is true or not true anymore. Take hydroxychloroquine. Donald Trump said this may work. We should look into it. And so because Orange Man is bad, everything had to line up with that narrative. Now, this puts people's lives at risk. We saw those doctors that came out and said, look, hydroxychloroquine it's already a drug that's on the market. You put it with some zinc, which costs pennies on the dollar. And we believe, the doctors saying, we believe that this could help. This could save lives. And YouTube banned it. YouTube banned it. It's been deemed as dangerous. And for no other reason, really, what's dangerous about it is it's dangerous to the Democrats' re-election strategy. They have to have Trump be wrong all of the time, but that's not about making a better country. That's just about consolidating power, you see. This is why I say they're unfit for power, because everything they do, everything they say, it's no longer weighing the truth of the matters. It's simply, does this forward the narrative or does this hinder our narrative? And it's not going to get better when Joe Biden gets in office. This is one of those things you can learn more about a person and what they're made of when they're losing than when they're winning. Everyone can smile for the camera and shake hands and be a good sport when their team is winning. It's the great ones where you see how do they behave when they lose, when things actually go wrong. If you look at Michael Jordan lose to the Celtics, he had passion, but he also didn't just blame, well, it was the referee's fault or it was the fans' fault or management's fault. It's like, okay, we got to get back to practice, get back to training, and build a better team. But that's not what we're seeing out of the left. They simply want to control all of the information, and it doesn't matter what's true or what's not true. It's simply what's going to help us consolidate power, and that's a scary thought. Look at Joe Biden here wants to make masks mandatory nationwide. Well, here in Seattle, Washington State, the governor, he made masks mandatory for any public space where you can't social distance, so something like the grocery store. And it's a 90 days in jail or $1,000 fine, at least potentially misdemeanor, if you don't have a mask on, except for people with medical conditions. Well, Joe Biden is going to make it nationwide. What's funny about our governor, Jay Inslee, is the day after he made this mandatory mask law, he went to a press conference and he wasn't wearing a mask. And the people asked him, what gives with that? And Jay Inslee responded, I'm exercising my First Amendment right to not follow my own rule I just made yesterday. And finally, he was given so much grief that he started wearing a mask in public. But I thought if it was a health concern, he would just wear one. If masks worked and there's a COVID crisis, why wouldn't he wear a mask? Why would he be exercising his First Amendment right if the only thing keeping him safe was his mask? Well, because it's a political thing. It's all become politicized. And it's just for whatever reason they feel that masks serve the Democratic narrative. I guess that somehow Trump is mishandling this COVID crisis. How much you want to bet when Joe Biden wins, we're going to see the number of deaths start going down sharply, reported deaths anyway, since we all know you die on a motorcycle these days and they call it COVID-19. As soon as Joe Biden gets in office, he'll say mandatory masks, and then the narrative is going to go, well, we saw a decrease, sharp decrease, sharp decrease. Okay, you don't need your masks anymore. Well, Joe Biden saved the day. He did in 90 days what Donald Trump couldn't do in 6 months. The truth has no importance. The fact that it may or may not work, I don't know. I'm no doctor, but neither is these little tech weenies in Silicon Valley. I don't want them deciding what I can and can't hear. But anything that contradicts the DNC narrative is now blasphemous. That's scary. That's a scary thought. You know, you look at, say, the church lady in the 90s. Dana Carvey did this skit and kind of mocking the evangelicons who wielded a great deal of power back in those days. They were a pretty monolithic and strong voting bloc, and they always voted conservative. And you had, well, isn't that special? You know, because they were like these judgy holy rollers. And I knew people like that. It was kind of obnoxious. But they don't have anything on the modern day social justice warrior. I mean, what we're seeing today is the church lady was a joke. These what these tech giants are doing is terrifying. And speaking of serving power, I mean, look at the riots. Look at the Chaz. All of this stuff. No masks, some masks, definitely no social distancing. And then you just get the media churn out articles. Well, this, say, Trump rally causes COVID-19, but the Black Lives Matter protests, there was no change. There was no, COVID doesn't spread at protests that support the left. You see, it's all just a power dynamic. The truth is just whatever is convenient at that moment. And they keep moving the goalposts. And if you want to try and ride this train because you imagine some grand rewards you're going to get from an ascendant authoritarian power, because that's what you're supporting if you support Democrats right now. You're supporting authoritarians. You're going to be sorely disappointed because, look, we're already seeing freedom of speech disappear. Tech giants take it away. The journalists are okay with it. Well, they're okay with it now. Wait till they come for you. Right? The journalists that can't do math that suddenly know everything about science. Wait until they don't like your opinion anymore, because things will change on a dime once they have power. We know they're coming for guns. Well, there's what? I don't even know. I'd have to look it up, but there's millions of new gun owners because they've abolished the police in all these cities. And we've seen all these riots. We've seen an autonomous zone, a literal revolution less than 100 miles from where I live, and this is a good thing. It's a summer of love. A revolution is okay because it serves power, because it serves the narrative. They're going to take away your guns. They're going to defund the police. And what happens when the police are defunded? Well, here you can see in Lowell News, Minnesota governor asks for federal funds to help in riot recovery. So he didn't do anything to stop the George Floyd riots because he didn't want the bad PR, but now he wants the president and the feds to step in and help put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Well, what's going to happen? See, we'll defund the police, there will be riots, but Joe Biden will be in office. Well, they're going to then call for the military. Someone's going to restore order. Like, the only reason these riots are allowed to happen, it's not because it's black people or because it's for a good cause. It's because they think it's serving the leftist narrative. They won't allow riots under Joe Biden. There's not a chance. And if the police department's defunded, you don't suddenly refund it. What you do is you call in soldiers. And soldiers aren't there to simply work the beat. Soldiers have one purpose, and that is to destroy. And so that's what you're going to see, is you're going to see soldiers deployed where the police have been disbanded. And basically what that is de facto martial law. you have your authoritarian. You have no free speech. You can't post anything online that is hacked, which is basically going to mean anything that comes from a source we don't like, Project Veritas, maybe some citizen journalist, a Tim Pool. If it doesn't come from CNN, it's not good enough. And so then you got soldiers on the ground. They're going to do what soldiers do, and the media won't cover it. Okay, no free speech, no right to bear arms, no police department, and a military occupation on our soil. Open borders, you get people in, you buy their vote, you vote by mail, you just stuff the ballots, and that's the end of the republic. We're witnessing a revolution in progress to overthrow the republic. A vote for the Democrats is a vote to overthrow the American way of life, and I really would implore you to think it through. We have explicitly defined constitutional rights. We have freedom right now, although it's under threat. And don't fall for this imagine stuff. Imagine what it'll be like. Imagine a better world. No, just look at history and see what happens when people have carte blanche authoritarian power, a sycophantic press that thinks they're going to get all sorts of rewards. It's all these people that have been hypnotized into believing that there's going to be boundless earthly rewards if they sell out their fellow citizen, get rid of their freedom. It's only going to affect them. They're going to suppress the conservative. And then it's going to work out great for all of you that voted for the left. Are you kidding? That's why they have the term useful idiots. You're a pawn. And this isn't hyperbolic. I mean, we see it happening real time. We see where it's going. And you know darn well that, look, they impeached Trump. They had an actual impeachment for Trump, voted on it, for something that Joe Biden did. You understand? We're going to get kangaroo courts. You're not going to get justice. You're going to be constantly running to keep up with the moving goalposts. It's going to move well past where you want it to be. Look at J.K. Rowling. She was fine being a child of the lie until she then had to admit there's no such thing as biological women, and she wouldn't do it. Now her own fans turn on her. They hate her now because she won't say a man can become a woman or a woman can become a man. Sooner or later, these goalposts are going to move past where you want them to. Even if you think it's going somewhere where it's going to be this great earthly reward, you're going to be really disappointed when it's going to be whatever it is you are is suddenly the new white male. This is the most important election of our lifetimes. And, Donald Trump, he's draining the swamp. He's upsetting a lot of apple carts. We've seen the baby eaters. They're getting outed. We're making headway. Don't fall for what you can dream up and think that's what you're going to get as a reward in a globalist superstate. There's a reason our founders wanted so many checks and balances on anyone that held a position of power. We have to go back to living in a world where truth is not just a matter of political convenience. We have to say what is true and call out what is not true. Let our yes mean yes and our no mean no. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil.